Welcome to the seniors hour.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Yes. And somebody 60 plus interviews somebody 60 plus. This is what you get.
This is what you get. 130 minutes of confusion.
Since we last spoke, Ellen, I've binged all of the Ellen Foley movies.
Yeah. And what was my favorite performance when I said this or I said that? They weren't exactly huge parts, but
Well,
they were all pretty.
I enjoyed Cocktail, but I think that Australian connection with Brian Brown. I
Yeah,
thought there should
yeah.
have been more of you in Fatal Attraction, and despite Married to the Mob having an amazing cast, I thought that in my pecking order of favourite movies, I'd have to put that one at number three.
Those costumes and the hair for Married to the Mob. It's easy to act when your hair is doing all the work for you, you know. It was really fun. That was a blast. It was Jonathan Demme, who was just wonderful. Unfortunately, we lost him. He was an incredible talent. Um, Michelle Pfeiffer did this thing. Michelle Pfeiffer playing Angela she was the lead and then sort of the leader of the pack. And the three of us were her posse. And before we started filming, I was here in my apartment one night and the phone rings and somebody goes, my character was Teresa. Hello, Teresa. You want to come over, have some drinks at my place? And I'm like, who's this? She goes, it's Angela. Who do you think it is? It's Angie. She was in character and she invited us over. So, we became a fun little entourage. It was cool. That was great.
What I did love about that movie was David Johansen playing the part that he played. I think he was the preacher, wasn't he, at the funeral?
He was the priest at the burial. Yeah. It's typecasting.
Hey, let's talk about the fact that Ellen Foley has new music. It's the first new music, in about 5 years, but way before that, we had to go way back to like 1983. It's good to see you active again.
It's great to be active again. Okay, so 1983 did the final final album on the Epic label. And I was a little burnt out. I didn't feel I was getting a lot of support, from the label or whatever. And that was the last album of that deal. And I said, I want to go back and I don't want to be the boss. I don't want the one with all the responsibility. I just want to be somebody's employee. And it worked out really well because, I did, some Broadway stuff. I did TV. I did more film. And then I got married in 89 and 89, 90, because we just had our 31st anniversary. Got married in 1990, had my kids, had two kids. And and then up until 2008, I had been pretty inactive except for something here and there. And I did a show called Hercules in High Suburbia in a theater down here, La Mama Theater. And it was sort of a modern retelling of the Hercules myth, played Megara, the wife. Anyway, Paul Foglino wrote the words and music to that show, and he and I got together afterwards and started working. We sat on this sofa, might have had different upholstery then, but we sat on this sofa, said, let's have a band, like Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Let's go in the barn and make a show. But we I don't know what we thought at first we were going to do. I think we just wanted to be involved with each other musically. And we said, oh, yeah, what? Oh, I know. Let's have a Stones cover band. I said, yeah, because I've always wanted to be Mick Jagger, basically. So we sat on this sofa and thought about that. And then he woke up one day and said, what, wait a minute, I'm a songwriter. So we then kept collaborating and working. We got a band together around that time, and worked in that organic way that I sort of never did before, where you have your songwriter with you and he's in the band and he's writing songs, and you've got gigs. We played in a place on the Lower East Side called the Lakeside Lounge, and it was sort of reliving your youth a little bit. And so that's how we first got together.
So you've hit a benchmark age in recent weeks. Happy birthday, the big 7-0. And then you come out with an album that absolutely slams so many of the younger acts right out of the water. This album really rocks.
Wow.
Fighting Words is a rock record, isn't it?
It is. And I love when people say that and knocking the younger ones out of the water. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to knock anybody out of anything, except maybe knock your socks off. That's an old person's joke. You thought I was young and a rocker. That's an old person's joke. But yeah, I love it. I love it. And, our best bet is to be able to get this kind of exposure with you and get the word out there and have people, if they buy it or not, I don't know, but I really want everybody to hear it.
Well, the first song we did get to hear was I'm Just Happy to Be Here, another real rocker. But, where this one's interesting, it ties you back together with the past and Karla DeVito, who was in the Paradise by the Dashboard Light video clip, but miming your vocals. Why weren't you in that actual video at the time?
Because I declined from being in the tour, and Karla was going to do the tour, and their idea was that they said, oh, she is the face of the tour. Now she's going to be the face of the girl, the face of the female element of Meat Loaf. So I just went with it. That was okay. Because, I was like, whatever, and 40 million records later. But it bothered me for a while, but it certainly doesn't anymore. I mean, I think anybody who knows anything about the record or knows anything about me or even about Karla knows that I sang the vocal on the record.
Well, you and Karla are obviously good friends to, collaborate on this record.
Yeah. We have come together in the last 5 years or so. We didn't really know each other, but we did a tribute one night in a club here in New York called 54 Below to Jim Steinman. And I sang Heaven Can Wait. She sang Lost Boys and Golden Girls. And we were there. I don't know who put it together, but it was us. And it was like all these young Broadway types. It had to be more than 5 years ago because a lot of these young people were in the chorus of a show that hadn't come out yet. They were in Hamilton, and the show hadn't opened yet. So, but it was all these young types, and it was she and I. So we really, huddled together and really struck up a friendship. I just find her to be just so wonderful and somebody you can really talk to. And then we both did this trio with Meat Loaf on Braver Than We Are, the cut from his last album. And our friendship sort of took off from there, where at the point where I said to Paul, I want you to write us a song that we can sing together. Being not altogether unselfish, because I figured, it would get some attention if she was on the record with me. And after all, Paul isn't getting attention, what this is all about.
Yeah, well, you've got Heaven Can Wait on this record.
Yeah.
That's another nod to the past.
It is. But it's a song I've been singing since 1977 when I was in a show that Jim wrote and that we did in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center called Neverland. And it had the themes of the Lost Boys and the Peter Pan themes that still continue in the show. the Bat Out of Hell musical. So I played Wendy in the show, and I sang Heaven Can Wait in that. And I've been singing it pretty much ever since with my bands, or with when I did a cabaret, all sorts of performances. I've always sung that song.
When we get to the another track on the album, "Are You Good Enough?" and another rocker, and I guess it's in part to the band that you put together on here, members of Ozzy Osbourne's band, Graham Parker and the Rumour. It really is a rock outfit, isn't it? And one that I would imagine that you could put together to take on the road.
They were all in my band that I played with. It wasn't a studio. Frankenstein put together. They were all in the band that went back when I was playing a lot around New York a lot. Everybody was in the band, so they knew some of the material, but most of it was new. But they're a great unit, even though they did not play as a unit to make the record. They all made their tracks individually.
It's interesting having someone from Graham Parker and the Rumour on this record, going back to Night Out, because you covered a Graham Parker song way back on that album.
That's right, Thunder and Rain. Thunder and Rain, which I loved at the time because I was very much into high drama. And you can't get much higher than that. I always pictured King Lear out, in the storm after he'd been blinded, Thunder and Rain. You can't get much more epic than that. And it's a fantastic song. And Mick Ronson added so much to the covers I did because he created these great riffs, guitar parts, and Ian, they put a new spin on the stuff that was not original.
Well, "Stupid Girl," the Stones song, that was a fairly obscure Stones song. I was introduced to that song via your album, and then later got to know when I started to get more and more into the Rolling Stones, dig deeper in and discover that as a Stones song. But that was also an unusual choice. You don't go for the obvious covers, do you?
No, but I've been thinking about that, "Stupid Girl," because, a lot of those songs I sat in this room again and just, poured over all my vinyl, thought about songs other than the ones I wrote. And then my friend, her name is Zora, she said to me, "Well, why don't you do this song, 'Stupid Girl' by the Stones?" I'm like, yeah, that's great. And then, but just recently, it's like, why did she tell me to do that song? And then I realized, well, maybe she just thinks I'm stupid.
We've spoken about this one before, about your relationship with The Clash, the second album, The Spirit of St. Louis, and that rumour that "Should I Stay or Should I Go" was actually written about you. Now, the floor goes to Ellen Foley.
No, it wasn't. I mean, when I've heard for years that it was, and I thought, yeah, well, maybe. But then I thought, no, these lyrics do not represent anything about what that relationship was like. So, no, I've come to the conclusion pretty much that it was not about me.
That album, Spirit of St. Louis, is the missing Clash album. If the Clash had a female lead singer, that is the album.
Right, but I don't think the way I sang on that record would stand up to Joe Strummer on stage. If we were on stage singing together in the Clash, I think I would need to rock a little bit more than I did on that record.
Well, you get the credit on the Sandinista album, Hitsville UK, as well. That was another great track.
Well, yeah. Well, that I loved. I mean, that song is great on so many levels. I mean, the wonderful story it tells about these kids who didn't have a lot, who made music, kids who made music for other kids, and how they all bolstered each other up, in a really beautiful way to create that punk scene. And I love the sound of it. It's Mick Jones, one of him, but like 12 of me, tracking my voice, layering the voice many times. And I always say it's like a children's choir. It has such gorgeous innocence and positivity to it. It's a great, great song.
Were they also in King of Comedy with you? Are they part of the Street Scum?
Yes, they were the major Street Scum. I was the Street Scum girlfriend. Yeah. I guess Scorsese was a big fan of theirs, and as it turns out, he told me he'd been a fan of mine too. Because when we went to dinner with him, it's when he was married to Isabella Rossellini, and a great moment. Joe Strummer looked at Isabella Rossellini. He goes, "You know who you look like? You look like Ingrid Bergman." And everybody said, "Well, that's because she's her daughter," and he didn't know it. But the moment, that he saw that in her face, that was a beautiful moment. But so Scorsese, we all went to dinner, and he said, "Yeah, come to the set, whatever." I don't think we knew we were going to be in it, but we all stood in front of Colony Records, which was like a storied record store and sheet music. I went there when I was first in New York, when I would be auditioning for shows, and bought sheet music, and I still have them. And they were like $1.25, where now you probably pay $8 for sheet music, and you wouldn't be able to find it in a store. So there was this store, and I knew all the guys who worked there. So we were standing in front of Colony Records, and Robert De Niro and Sandra Bernhard were doing a scene, and they were like having some sort of fight, and we were like, "Hey, motherfucker," just harassing them from the side, and it was improvised. There was no script.
How'd you get on with Brian Brown?
Well, I just thought he was the cutest thing I ever saw, and so. He was fine, but I was nervous because I think I had a crush on him. But he was pretty cool.
Getting back onto the album, we were talking about your choice of obscure cover songs, and in particular Wilson Pickett's "I Found a Love." I don't know if that's better known in America, maybe it is, but for an Australian, that's a rather deep cut to be choosing to cover.
Paul chose it for us to do with the band live. And he probably did a deep dive, as he knows a lot of music that I certainly don't know. And, I think when a guy's a guitar player, they listen to probably more music than somebody else might, and find more obscure songs. And he came up with that song. And it was so great because he came up with it for us to do live, and it's gangbusters. It's get down on your knees moment. I always say, if I could get down on my knees to sing it, I would. And as somebody told me yesterday, you could probably get down on your knees, but it would be getting back up again that would be the problem. But yeah, it's a great song. And I love it's just done the way we did it live, so it's almost like having a live performance on the record.
Like I said, I think the first time I saw you on TV was as Billy Young in Night Court. That was all those years ago. I had the pleasure of playing Night Out on the radio when it was a brand new release, on vinyl, on Epic, and pulling it out of the sleeve. You came down to Australia at one point. I think you were even on Countdown, weren't you? Did you do Countdown when you came to Australia?
I did. It was, that was, what a great trip. I was such a lucky kid, to be able to go to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, tour Europe was fantastic. But that fact that I got such a great audience and sold so well in Australia always meant a lot to me.
Ellen Foley, thanks for joining us here at Noise 11.
Thank you, Paul.